Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us. I'm Meg Coyle, the VP of Comms at Innovid, and I'm really excited to kick off today's 2026 Product Roadmap webinar. So you're going to hear specifics, not buzzwords, not future state slides, but what's actually happening either now or very soon within our platform and why it matters this year and beyond. And you'll see we're moving fast and we're building with real intention. You're going to hear directly from our leaders about what we're doing in creative, delivery, measurement, and optimization, and how we're applying AI across all of it to bring better clarity, precision, performance to this incredibly complex space that we're all a part of. Our president, Grant Parker, will kick things off, talking about the pressures that advertisers are facing and why this is a moment of opportunity. Zvika, our co-founder and CEO, will talk about innovation and vision and how we're turning fragmentation into orchestrated performance. Shamim, our Chief Product Officer, will walk through our product focus, creating an operating system that is across creative, delivery, measurement, and optimization. Megan and Simeon will then take you into the roadmap across creative, delivery, and social. So everything from Gen AI and creative intelligence to agentic trafficking and activation. Rickey and Ryan will then cover what's next in measurement and optimization. So think ID expansion, omnichannel, harmony signals. So to cover everything on this agenda, we won't have time to stop for live questions, but please drop them in the Q&A function throughout. We'll be reviewing them and we'll follow up afterward. So with that, let's get started. I am happy to introduce Innovid's president, Grant Parker. Grant, over to you.
Thank you, Meg. And hi, everyone. Thank you for giving us your time today. And thanks for all of your partnership and really helping to shape what we're hoping to present and share. And in totality, it's really our thinking about the challenges our clients are facing and how we can be the best partner in helping to solve those challenges. So when we talk to our clients and think about this moment in the near future, I like to try and put myself in your shoes and ask these three questions. Why change? Why now? Why Innovid? And really what that means is, what is currently creating challenges and opportunities for marketers that we're hearing about? Is there anything that's adding new vectors or urgency to this? And what role do we play in helping navigate that change and deliver positive solutions? So when we think about the moment we're in and the impetus for change in 2026, there's a couple things that come to mind. One is this real pressure to do more with less. That's always kind of been at the forefront, but feels very loud right now. Increase effectiveness, increase efficiency at the same time. Equally relevant right now is that consumers are just inundated with content and advertising, and they're getting overwhelmed and they're ignoring ads when they're not relevant and really meaningful to them. And then there's this kind of backdrop in the industry that's been there for a while of there's a lot of waste, there's a lot of silos, there's inefficiency. And so what do we do to solve for some of those things? And then there's a new vector, which of course you knew we were going to talk about, which is AI. So it's a big shift that's going on right now. And one of the things that's helped me think through this is this hype or is this reality? How does this kind of compare to the history of innovation? And so I have this chart to share with you that is, it took 3,000 generations of human beings to go from fire to the light bulb. It took 3 generations to go from the light bulb to the internet. And in 1 generation, most people believe that we're going to go from the internet to the early stages of artificial general intelligence. And so naturally, we sit on this curve at a point in time and look backwards and kind of assume that the curve is linear, but it's not. It's geometric and it's accelerating faster. And so if you put yourself anywhere on this curve, you should assume that the future is steeper than you think, meaning that Even though it feels like hype right now, reality is coming where this innovation, in whatever form it takes, will have a major impact on humanity. Um, and there's a lot of content out there that makes that sound really scary. I like to think about it as a positive, though. And I think the history of innovation has largely been positive. What that means for me is um, people change when their ability to address problems meets the decrease in effectiveness and efficiency that they're seeing from what they're currently doing. And the way I look at AI is an opportunity to accelerate our ability to address problems and to actually move up the chain or move earlier in time and very soon be able to really drive meaningful impact on effectiveness and efficiency through these solutions. And you're going to hear this you're going to hear from us today about this. We're releasing solutions that do exactly this. We've got new AI agents that we're super excited about that are coming to market that have the power to really transform significant parts of our industry. And I think it's a lot faster than people maybe expect, which is a good way to think about our role here and what gives us the right and the opportunity to be involved in the change that marketers are seeking. Um, we like to think about this first from like a philosophical standpoint. What are the things that need to be true or focused on for Innovid to really play a role in solving challenges for marketers? So we think about this from a five T's perspective: trust, transparency, technology, talent, and transformation. These are our guiding principles when it comes to our role in the industry, but also our role as partners to our clients. And I think right now, in this era of AI, more than ever, trust is paramount and something that we think about. But all of these things kind of contribute both at Innovid and MediaOcean to how we filter our view of the world. And then second, we have to have a real product point of view that's anchored on the challenges our clients face. And the three challenges we hear most often are we need to be more efficient, we need transparency and control, and we need our ads to be more impactful. And so when it comes to being more efficient, we're really focused on how do we make sure that our enterprise grade platform is omni-channel, that it's connected into the industry, and that it's fully automated through AI. Obviously, that leads to the next thing is how do we make sure that humans still have a strong role in guiding that and having the transparency and control they needed. And for us, that means having completely unbiased data, total transparency within everything that we do, but ultimately connecting that unbiased data to meaningful optimizations that reduce waste. And then lastly, to make ads impactful, we have to drive relevance for consumers, and that relevance has to manifest in measurable outcomes. So that's going to be kind of both philosophically and practically how you should think about the content that we're going to deliver today. Next, I'm going to turn it over to Zvika Netter, our CEO. He's been leading innovation at Innovid for many years, but most recently, he's been the catalyst for the transformation that we're undergoing with AI and what we hope to bring to the industry. Zvika is going to share how we're thinking about that in the current moment. Over to you, Zvika.
Thanks, Grant. Thanks so much. And thank you, everybody, for joining. Very proud and humbled to be partnering with many of you on just, great ad tech products, but mostly now around AI, how to bring innovation into the market, how to turn this magical technology called AI to something practical we put in the use now and evolve together in partnership. So just want to share before we'll move to Shamim in terms of actual product that we're building, how we're thinking about this. And there's a quote I like by Albert Einstein in terms of to look at opportunity everywhere. So out of clutter found simplicity, in the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. And how does it connect to AI? So ad tech clearly is very, very cluttered. We have plenty of technology vendors, plenty of platforms, massive amount of data. So the way I think about it, that at least the products that we built in the last 15, 20 years, 30 years, this entire industry created more simplicity. The organized data and processes and more into products, software solution products. We're going to see a lot of features across our stack today. And that's how I basically look at systems and softwares for creating ads, delivering ads, measuring ads, etc. There's a lot of tools in the industry. But what really AI helps us to do is a significant step function forward is how to take this and create and really monetize this massive opportunity using AI technology. How we take the assets that we have now as an industry and turn it into amazing outcome, great outcomes in ways that nobody imagined before, but definitely way more efficient. So if we'll focus on our stack, we'll go into great details into each and every one, but from a solution perspective, we basically have four categories: the creation of, better ads, the authoring tools, the integration with other authoring tools, the versioning, the DCO, all that stuff under creation, delivery, much more efficient. This is the ad server, the core of the ad server, the decision engine, that we definitely believe we can turn into a more and more efficient process. Measurement, understanding outcomes, what did we actually deliver, being a source of truth, and understanding all of that. And clearly optimization that came in even before AI, but now with AI, it makes it basically to understand what worked, what didn't work, and how we should optimize and change the plan. Now, clearly, as these tools are getting more and more sophisticated, the ability to optimize and create this flywheel effect is growing up exponentially. So that's at the heart of any tech company. At Innovid, these are our four products. What's very important to look at before we jump into AI is the data component, because AI is nothing without data. If it uses data to learn, to study, and to respond. So the beauty of having all these stack, the creation, delivery, measurement, optimization across all channels, video, display, audio, social, etc., it generates massive trillions and trillions of data points in our stack that are stored there for many, many, many years now. The beauty of is once you layer that with AI, AI kind of in a way sometimes even skip the solution part. It can analyze and look at data and understand it in ways that are unimaginable, in speed that are pretty phenomenal, and then create recommendation. So only then the solution can actually execute those recommendations either by humans or automatically by agents. But the beauty of it is the key for having great AI solutions is actually the data. And as an ad server, a neutral, unbiased ad server that doesn't buy or sell media, and having all these tools, we believe we're in a pretty unique position in the industry to provide neutral, transparent, unbiased AI agents to make your work much more efficient. So if I, to summarize, overlay this, very unique data set. So it's like Lego bricks. And if we have certain, I don't know, propellers here and wheels that nobody else had, that's puts us in a very unique place to then create not just the solutions that we have and we're very happy and proud of, but actually creating agents that would lead to outcomes that will be very, very unique. And with that, I'll switch to Shamim, who provide more details about our stack and what we're building. Shamim?
Thank you, Zvika. Thanks for everyone for joining. Very excited to be here. So I'm Shamim Samadi, the Chief Product Officer. So I'm going to go one level deeper and talk about the platform that we've built and sort of the deliberate underlying architecture that has gone into it. And then the team is going to go into the real specific features right after. So in terms of how we think about the platform and how we've deliberately architected it, Zvika has mentioned some of this, but we think about it as a operating system for advertising. So a single, intelligent, automated operating system, which connects the marketer to the consumer through kind of four product areas or pillars, which are ad creation, ad delivery, so delivering those ads into every environment, measuring the performance of those ads, and then ultimately taking that measurement and feeding it into optimizing and making smarter media decisions. But what that means in terms of you, the customer, and how we think about the platform, when we talk about creative, it's about how can we solve for stale messaging? How can we use the data, the performance data that we have based off of ad delivery to create more relevant ads for consumers? And we've seen, top retailers have seen 45% improvement in conversion rates using our dynamic creative frameworks. So again, delivering the right message to the right consumer in the right environment. When we talk about delivery, our business objective in servicing customers is to remove the operational drag and speed up the sort of time to market for campaign launches. So we've had top telco companies, top CPG brands, by centralizing activation through Innovid, seen a 30% improvement in speed to market. And that's kind of how we measure the delivery product and if it's delivering on the customer goals. In terms of measurement, it really is about a single source of truth and connecting ad exposure to the actual outcomes that you care about. So we've had customers see a 50% increase on return on ad spend by using our measurement solution across all their channels. And finally, around optimization, we think of it as taking what we've measured and automatically pushing signals to media decision partners like DSPs and publishers to make better media decisions. And we've had customers decrease by 45% their costs on per unique reach by reducing waste out of their media buys. So that's kind of how we think about it at a high level. In terms of, and this really, like, the simplest way to think about this, if we're really boiling it down to brass tacks, it's better ads, faster deployments, clearer insights, and ultimately better outcomes at the end of the day. Now that's kind of the base layer of the platform you could think of, this create, deliver, measure, and optimize. What I'm really excited about talking about is the AI agents that we're adding on top of this. So think about the AI agents as a layer on top of our platform, and what they take the automation we've already built and they accelerate. So they accelerate time to market, they accelerate time for ad creation, they produce better outcomes. And so that's how we think about it. And it's about automating tasks that can be automated, that are redundant, having agents run autonomously while still keeping human in the loop with human insight, and having the agents, as we continuously improve the agents, as the models get smarter, as we get better with more data, customers benefit from that improvement automatically. So the agents are also, and I'll talk about the agents we've built in a moment, they are in these areas of, we have create agents and deliver agents, measurement agents, and optimization agents. So I'll talk about them at a high level. We will go into them deeper in the roadmap section. And these are agents that are available today. A couple of them will be available in the coming couple of weeks. And they are around ad creation. It's about creative generation. So taking base assets and brand kits and building creative using our tools. Predictive scoring, which can take what elements of the creative we think are driving performance and predictively telling you how to form your creative. Within ad delivery, it's about campaign trafficking. So taking any media plan and automatically trafficking a campaign from start to finish, which I'm really excited about. Decision tree building. So this is using natural language to build a decision tree for dynamic creative. Campaign QA, which is about automatically QAing a campaign for you using static rules, custom rules that you can set up. In terms of measurements around report visualization, so no longer will there be sort of static dashboards and charts and graphs. You can visualize data automatically through an AI agent, as well as creative insights. So showing insights into what parts of the creative are working and driving performance. And finally, on Optimize, we have a creative optimizer, which uses real-time performance data to optimize creative in real time. So I'm very excited about those agents. I'm just as excited about this next part of the platform, which is a product in and of itself, which we call the Innovid Orchestrator. This is also something that we're releasing in the coming weeks. And the way to think about it is, as Zvika mentioned, we have the underlying data as the foundation. We have the platform that we built around create, deliver, measure, and optimize. We are adding agents on top of that to add acceleration and create new value. And the final layer that we've built is the orchestrator. And the goal of the orchestrator is to solve a business problem that we think our customers are going to need to string multiple agents together to achieve their business outcomes. If you're launching a campaign, it's not just about creating campaigns. You also have to traffic them and QA them and understand what's performing. And the orchestrator does just that. You can tie these agents together, and you can create different workflows. For example, your display workflow may be different from your video workflow. And the last thing I'll say is that the orchestrator is not just about orchestrating within the Innovid platform. It's also orchestrating outside of the ecosystem and plugging into other agents. So for example, a publisher selling agent, you can push tags to a publisher ad server or send conversion signals or optimization signals to a DSP automatically. So I'm really excited about the Innovid orchestrator as well. And ultimately, this is all in service of again, creating our omni-channel operating system. That is how we think about the platform. And so with that, I am going to hand it to Rickey and Megan, Simeon and Ryan, who are going to get into more of the specifics around what are the products we're releasing in the coming weeks and months.
Thanks, Shamim. Hi, everyone. I'm Megan Gall. And as Shamim mentioned, alongside Simeon, Rickey, and Ryan, we're excited to walk you through what's coming in 2026. And none of this happens without our incredible product and engineering teams. They're the ones building the innovation, pushing the boundaries of what's possible. Our go-to-market strategy team partners closely with them to bring that innovation to market in a way that directly solves the challenges that we hear from you every day. So let's dive in. When we think about Create, we think about building smarter ads, dynamic, interactive, data-informed creative that scales relevance and drives measurable performance. And when we look at our 2026 Create roadmap, it really comes down to three big challenges. First, fatigue is real. Grant touched on it, right? Audiences are more overwhelmed than ever. The average person sees thousands of ads per day. Creative goes stale quickly. This is especially true in the social environment. Refresh cycles can be every 2 weeks, sometimes even faster. Performance really depends on volume as well, right? Often hundreds of assets for a single campaign. The pressure to constantly bring something new to market has never been higher. The second thing we see, scale is not just about producing more ads. It's about having the technology and the strategy to deliver the relevance at scale. Teams can't be bogged down by execution complexity. The tech should really be the foundation that marketers can focus on what drives results, right? And the third thing is insights need to move at the speed of creative. Understanding messages, visuals, what specific design elements are driving impact, and removing the friction between learning and iteration. And that's really the creative media gap that we're focused on closing. So Simeon, walk us through how clients can action on some of these upcoming solutions.
Yeah, thanks, Megan. So when it comes back to keeping ads fresh, I like to think, the stakes have never been higher in this regard. There was a recent media post survey that I was just looking at the other day that highlighted that roughly 60% of consumers were less likely to buy products if they saw the same ad too many times. And this means that we've moved beyond an area where it's, good to avoid oversaturation of your messaging and market to now a place where it really can affect your bottom line and something that we need to pay attention to and have tactics to solve. So how do we go about solving that problem ultimately? Comes back to creating streamlined production processes that are enabled by powerful creative generation at the end of the day. And Innovid has a couple of key ways that we're doing this immediately and in the upcoming couple of weeks. To start out with, we have our generative AI audio solution that is simplifying the production process for rolling out new audio assets. And I like to say that this enables the audio channels, but it also enables video, social, and CTV as well, as audio plays a role in those assets too. When we think about kind of the savings of time and money you get from this too, if you think about the historical production process for audio specifically, you had to get into a booth, you had to get different performances. Now things are moving at the speed of the idea that you can think of. When it comes to how we apply ultimately those AI generative techniques, APIs are playing a key role here for us in the future too, as it allows us to move with bulk editing capabilities and scale content for kind of the strategies that ultimately require you to have more of these systematic approaches. Think about how maybe a product feed works and being able to automatically remove that background image across all of the images that come in. Or maybe it's making a more dynamic background or an interesting new way to look at that same asset, as we see in this strange burger/chicken element that is on the right side of the screen here. And finally, when we look at kind of how AI generation wants to be used by our advertisers, it's about being able to create those different assets, but also making sure that what you're getting from an asset perspective is usable too. So when we are approaching this in terms of how we solve it, we've been able to roll out a solution that brings in brand kits and guidelines to how you can approach your AI generation. So it's getting smarter and learning how you want to speak and market about your products ultimately to get closer and mirror your creative vision. Megan touched a little bit earlier on scaling creative execution, and it's kind of the ultimate promise of digital we started out with, right? It's kind of being able to action on that sea of data, being able to deploy a more sophisticated, relevant message to the user. But the trade-off with that was always, are we adding complexity on the setup? Are we making this harder for us to deploy? So the thing we're solving for is making sure that sophistication never means complexity at the end of the day. And one of the really exciting ways we're doing this is a brand new agent that's rolling out that makes creating a creative strategy instantaneous and allows you to kind of turn that into making all impressions relevant in a really easy way. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into the details in one slide here because I think it's a really interesting one to highlight, but a lot of really cool stuff happening with that decision tree builder agent. We're also looking at ways that we can bring together targeting and creative execution at the end of the day. We've talked a lot previously about how creative and media have a gap, and bringing those together means that our strategies get a lot more intelligent and bring together orgs in a way that we want to see. But making those tactics actually work in platform is key to this. So we're developing different ways that advertisers can ultimately add their targeting alongside their creative iterations and bring those two teams closer together. And finally, creative optimization has always existed in the market as kind of an underutilized feature, in my opinion. And I think a lot of the reasons that this lagged behind was because we didn't necessarily have access to the metrics that you cared about most. So this really excites me as a bullet in terms of what we're working on, because it allows you to optimize and do automatic iteration and improvements to your campaign based on your specific North Star, which is really great and will allow us to actually automatically improve campaigns over time without any manual lift. So drilling down a little bit on that decision tree agent, because I think it's so neat, is from this agent, ultimately, what you'll be able to do is accelerate your planning process for rolling out a creative strategy based on any input that you put in there, whether it be a prompt, whether it be your structured data sheet, whether it be ultimately the way that you break out your creative by naming conventions. This can get you 90% of the way there in terms of building out a creative strategy and directing that creative strategy into a visual medium. And this is really useful too from a communication standpoint, because as you can see on the left side of the screen here too, it turns your thoughts and unstructured inputs into ultimately a visual medium that can be used to share how your creative strategy is going to roll out and break down. And beyond that immediate gain that you get from the instant build of a decision tree too, you get to do creative swaps, audit details, add more branches, ultimately edit these decision trees from a high level in intuitive ways that makes changes across all of the different branches, making it a lot more streamlined to get your thoughts down on paper ultimately. And Megan talked a little bit about gaining actionable insights too, and moving at the speed of creative, which is a really great way to put it. I think there's a gold mine of value that sits underneath this one specifically, and there's just a couple of things we need to do to get at it. And I'm really excited by the couple of features we're rolling out ultimately for this. When you unlock creative at the granular level, at the elemental level almost, you get insights back that level up to, what does my audience feel like? How do people feel about my brand? And not just how do people feel about my brand, but you get an escape velocity of how do people feel about my marketing writ large, not just my advertising. So a couple of really neat features that are coming out for this is, one, we're launching predictive scoring of creative pre-launch so that you can feel confident every time you roll out a message. I'm putting my best foot forward based on the KPIs I know that I'm trying to ultimately achieve. And based on that too, after you've launched your creative, we're also providing insights based on what worked ultimately and reintegrating into that feedback loop ultimately. So after you've launched a creative, what are the things that work? What are the creative combinations that worked? And where should you go ultimately? Next is the next step on that too, which is recommendations on how you can improve. And this is broken out not just by the creative elements that you've added to it, but also by like, what are your audiences resonating with? What are the design nuances of how this one differed versus the other? And ultimately, what is the content meaning in terms of that improvements we can make? So a lot of really exciting stuff about taking creative to the next level. And it's honestly, I love talking about the creative line of business. It's one of my favorite. But Megan, what's going on with Deliver?
All right, a lot of exciting stuff. Deliver really represents the core of the industry and the connective tissue that helps bridge all the amazing creative things Simeon just took us through into activation. So one of the biggest themes that we are hearing from enterprise advertisers is that delivery is getting more complex, not less. You're managing more platforms, more formats, more partners. And at the same time, there is growing pressure for greater control and faster real-time adjustments. You want visibility, you want flexibility. And then layer on top of all of that, the rise of the agentic shift, and the stakes get even higher. It's about being even quicker, more efficient. It's about trust. Speed without governance creates risk, and automation in silos creates fragmentation. And none of that is acceptable at the enterprise scale. So what we're focused on is helping you unify all of that through an independent tech core with industry first agentic capabilities that Shamim took us through and Simeon will dive deeper on for acceleration, control, and orchestration that you need. Because infrastructure is unified and accountable, ads won't just launch faster, it will reduce operational friction and clearly prove ROI. So back to Simeon to walk us through how we're turning that into a reality.
Yeah, thanks, Megan. So to start out with, I think one of the most critical things when it comes to greater control is that we're already kind of seeing this trend in market too. When we see how different brands are acting, some are in-housing, some are using more self-service. We're seeing people take control and allowing them to get closer to those real-time adjustments. But when we think about what actually needs to happen to make that possible, it's about staying close to the needs of the advertiser and what they actually need a system to be intuitive. So we're consistently making intuitive UI updates based on what you see in platform and based on the feedback we get from advertisers to make managing self-service just as easy, if not easier, than managed campaigns. And then additionally, when we talked about the enterprise level scale, we're adding in advanced permissioning and hierarchies to help kind of tackle the differences between teams. We all want things to be transparent across team. I think there's great value in that ultimately. And there's a connective tissue that this platform gives us. But when we look at kind of the breakdown of roles and responsibilities, we still want to have those guardrails ultimately that allow us to draw a line in this is your responsibility versus this is your responsibility while still maintaining that transparency. This is what permissioning and hierarchies are ultimately going to help us out with. And we talked about accelerating trafficking. This is another one where I'm just going to get really excited and super hyped about because we've talked about the concept of do more with less in the upfront, and this is where that really starts to hit hyperspeed. I think there's been a lot of promise in the industry for a while about getting campaigns quicker and quicker and quicker to the point where they're almost instantaneous. And this is where we're starting to make that jump. So to begin with, we have one agentic UI that's going to be rolled out across the platform to accomplish all tasks. And this is really useful because ultimately it allows us to surface a connective level across all tasks that allows them to be handed off to one another with the context of what happened before. So you're not just necessarily having those all accessible from one place, but you're also making sure that they know the context of each other in the moment. And then additionally, by having that one agentic UI, it makes it simple to access from one place, but still knows the context of where you are in the platform. If you're asking about how to do a specific functions, it knows maybe you're looking at this specific campaign and who you are and where you are in the platform. So that's really useful to making those kind of simple adjustments a lot more intuitive and a lot faster. When it comes to accelerating campaign trafficking, nothing is greater than the agent we're rolling out for campaign trafficking, which eliminates 90% of the manual setup from the get-go, taking your unstructured media plans, whatever you have to detail kind of how you've built this out. And we'll dive into the details of this in a second because it's a really exciting one. But to ultimately set up a campaign automatically for you that gets you the majority of the way there, and then brings you back to also be able to use that software layer to fine-tune at the end too for changes that you need to make. And finally, when you've auto-generated a campaign, you might want to check on those differences too, to make sure that everything is in line with your expectations, which is why we also have an agent for campaign QA operating as kind of the dual side of the coin to this campaign trafficking one, so that you can ensure your campaign has the integrity that you need, has the setup that you need, and knows the nuances of the specs and everything that you want to be assured is going to run correctly. So let's dive a little bit deeper on those last two agents I talked about too. So I talked about it earlier, but campaign trafficking agents specifically, what's really neat about this is it can take any input and transform it into a fully baked campaign. And that could be a media plan, but it could be an email, it could be a CSV. This is input agnostic, so ultimately it can take and ingest whatever you have to transform it into a fully baked campaign. And then, as I mentioned earlier, if it's 99% of the way there, you can do the last 1% in our technology that makes it visual and easy to make those tweaks. And then, as I said earlier, with accelerating campaign launches, the campaign QA agent takes us across the final mile, automatically identifying any setup errors that might exist. And what I like to highlight about this too is it's not just about identifying the common spec things that we might know as a rule, but also identifying trends in terms of how you like to set up your campaigns. For example, it might understand that you use 2 hyphens here when you usually only use 1 to use your taxonomy. It's going to learn your use cases over time and get much more intelligent and much smarter about ultimately the way that you roll out your campaigns and get attuned to your needs. And finally, talking about unifying partners and platforms to eliminate silos. I think this is a topic that's been around since the inception of ad servers, to be honest with you. But this is, we all know that as you start to build a stack higher and higher, there's some risk that comes in from communication, from coordinating across different partners and activation speed. All of this needs to be accounted for, and having a unified center operating system, if you will, of your stack helps us to accelerate all of those timelines, and not just accelerate, but unlock new value from connecting the dots across those partners. So a couple of ways that we're doing that is, one, unifying audiences alongside creative activation, measurement, and optimization workflows. From a speed standpoint, this immediately unlocks value of uploading and distributing audiences everywhere they need to be. But think of the additional values that build and compound upon this too. When you think of, what if I did have my audiences alongside my measurement capabilities? What if I did have my audiences as a dimension for my optimization activities? A lot of really good value to be gained from bringing those in line and having them truly connected to everything you do from a marketing standpoint. Secondly, we're continuing to expand our DSP integrations. I think there's been a lot of good time savings ultimately from the media buying process when we brought these into the fold and made it really easy and turnkey to activate them. So we're putting in some work there. And finally, we've talked a lot about agents today, but from an industry level, like, what are we doing with agents? Good question. And we're in those conversations with other industry leaders, making sure that we're staying ahead of agentic standards, and not just staying ahead, but ultimately doing thought leadership when it comes to how we approach these at the market level. So a lot of really good work going in there, and a lot of really exciting stuff to mirror all of the agent work we've done. And I would be remiss to talk about Deliver without talking about the specific part of Deliver underneath social, which is incredibly important and facing its own key challenges in 2026 as well. The first challenge ultimately boils down to making sure that you have better connectivity across your teams. I think for people who don't lean in here and address this challenge, the problems start to compound when it comes to precision, speed, and truly connecting the details of all of your campaigns. So inside the social ecosystem that's become somewhat fragmented over time, being closer here, whether it's being closer between your creative and activation teams or between your social and omni-channel teams, has never been more important. We're also staying ahead of constant platform innovation, because ultimately in the social space, innovation no longer moves at the seasonal pace. It now moves at the weekly pace. So staying ahead can be a big task. And advertisers need ultimately a partner that's dedicated to making sure they're staying ahead of innovation and bringing them into the loop ultimately with what these partners are doing. And when we talk about all the different partners on your plan too, it's important to maintain cross-publisher visibility too. Because in the social space specifically, breaking out of these silos has such tremendous value when it comes to connecting the insights that we see across all the different partners in the plan and creating action plans based on what we're seeing in different environments. Megan, what are like a couple of ways that people can stay ahead of these trends and not just perform, but outperform in the social environment?
Thanks, Simeon. Well, when we talk about real connectivity, that is where technology becomes the competitive advantage. Most delays are not strategic, they're operational, they're versioning issues, approval bottlenecks, platform by platform friction. We've built that centralized command center designed to scale operations and infuse governance and agility. And some key releases this year include social versioning. So imagine launching a back to school campaign across Meta, TikTok, Snap, Pinterest, Reddit, with 20 audience segments, 40 localized offers. Instead of rebuilding and re-uploading those assets in each platform, you manage version level creative once, push it everywhere, iterate quickly at scale. That could be hours, sometimes days saved per campaign. And then with shared working sets, teams can customize workflow, set up roles-based permissioning, make changes simultaneously, all with built-in brand governance, critical for large, complex teams. Shared working sets also sets some critical foundation for trafficking and QA agents. And then there is hypermode. We love hypermode. Our clients love hypermode, delivering up to 50% overall time savings and 20% faster launches for clients. So we're expanding on that even further this year with Reddit capability and feature functionality improvements. So let's say performance shifts mid-flight, you need to swap creative, adjust flights, refresh audiences, or update placements across dozens of ads. Instead of editing one by one inside the individual platform, you toggle into hypermode and you make changes at scale in a few clicks. And at Innovid, we work closely with the social platforms. They are our social partners. We're engaging in early alphas, roadmap collaboration. It's not about reacting to change, but helping to shape it. And that partnership gives clients like you early access to new formats, automation capabilities, and measurement advancements as they roll out. But it's not just about access. We layer that additional value on top through our platform, making these innovations easier to activate, scale, govern, and measure across your broader ecosystem. So for 2026, we continue to focus on early moving advantages and key things like cross-publisher vertical support. So ensuring some of these new capabilities work consistently across markets and regulated industries, for example, things like disclaimer for pharma and dynamic localization for brands managing varied offers and messaging across locations. And then there is a consistent flow of emerging campaign types and strategies like Meta's enhanced partnership ads and performance insights or creator snap support. Integrating these releases into the unified system so you can test and scale quickly is a big focus. And then finally, social moves fast. We've been talking about that. It's really fast. We've already talked about the creative refresh velocity, but in social, that pressure is amplified. Trends shift overnight. If you're reacting, you're already behind. So staying ahead requires more than reporting. It requires that unified view across platforms that surfaces the data into a clear blueprint for actioning on performance. So we're helping advertisers stay ahead with some key releases. One in particular, we've heard excitement across the board, creative fatigue measurements and alerts. This is proprietary performance-based alerts to flag messages across platforms before burnout happens and performance drops. This all includes forecasts and recommendations built in. And then we're seeing adoption from our top clients for our performance dashboard, rolled out late last year. Constant innovation is a focus here with some fantastic upgrades like tailored executive ready views that surface metrics you need, how you need to see them with savable templates across teams. And also AI-powered pre-launch scoring and post-launch insights that connect performance back to decisions so every campaign gets smarter. So gaining that deeper cross-publisher visibility, predictive insights, and the alerts turns reactivity into the proactive automation. So now I'll pass it over to Rickey and Ryan, and they'll let us know what's coming with Measure and Optimize.
Awesome. Thank you, Megan. So let's talk about Measure. This is where we provide the clarity and the validation that fuels the entire flywheel. In an era of signal loss and data fragmentation, measurement has to be integrated and it has to be independent. So when we talk about measurement, we aren't just looking at what happened in the past. We are telling you where your next dollar should go. Now, as we look at our measurement roadmap, we're solving for three fundamental challenges. First, fragmentation. Marketers are drowning in disparate reports that don't talk to each other. So our priority is to unify your reporting, to establish that elusive single source of truth so we can eliminate the manual stitching of data and all the issues that come with it. Our goal is to give you a clear and unbiased view of your performance. Second is the need to move beyond front-end metrics. It's not enough to just report on clicks or views. You need to quantify the impact of your paid media against real business objectives, whether that's online conversions, attention metrics, brand lift, or offline sales. Our roadmap is focused on closing the distance between an ad impression and the business outcome so you can prove your investment. And then finally, we know that time is money, and the faster that you can identify insights, the faster you can impact performance. If it takes your team 2 weeks to pull a report, the insight is already stale. So we need to build the tools that ensure the right data reaches the right person at the right time in the right format, so we can remove the technical friction of the measurement process. Well, you can't have a single source of truth if there are holes in your data. And that's why our first roadmap objective is to deliver one view of your delivery. We're going to do that first by continuing to evolve our Innovid ID. In this market, identity methodology cannot be a set it and forget it solution. We're focused on a sophisticated balance, one that leverages deterministic signals for absolute accuracy and probabilistic modeling for the scale that you need to see the bigger picture. As we see further data deprecation in the industry, our roadmap is dedicated to refining this hybrid approach and ensuring that your measurement remains both reliable and expansive, no matter what happens to the underlying signals. Building on that, we're also committed to breaking down the walled gardens, not by paneling, not by estimating, but with real tracked delivery. We've made significant progress integrating social data into our platform, but as social investment grows, we need to continue to prioritize this. This objective requires collaboration with and cooperation from our social partners, but we believe our unique position as a neutral performance advocate will get us there. And then finally, we're scaling Protected, our verification solution. We recently launched coverage within Meta, and our roadmap is focused on building on that momentum and expanding our footprint even further. By ensuring your impressions are human, fraud-free, and valid across every single channel, we're able to provide you the foundation of trust you need for reliable analytics. Now, all of this is essential work to provide our advertisers a strong foundation, but now, Ryan, I'm going to pass it to you so you can share how we plan to build on that for even greater impact.
Yeah, thanks. So I think when we're thinking about pulling in all this data into an omni-channel sense of measurement, we want to think about how impactful that measurement is going to be for our users who are going to look at it. Now, for those of you that know, we've had for a while Innovid XP as our advanced measurement platform, and that has a lot of sophistication behind it. Separately within our ad server, we have report building, we have Protected as a way to think about ad verification and more. And so when we're thinking about, okay, yes, we want to be more the omni-channel source of truth for customers, we need to think about how we ensure that that data meets the needs at a universal view. How can I take that understanding and apply it to my media buys, to my tactics, line by line? What are the targeting strategies that will help me deliver ROAS? Right. So it's not as simple as, hey, let's just throw display, audio, and social into the same world that we used to view as TV measurement. We need to make sure that we're doing it thoughtfully, doing it with data science and business intelligence to ensure that what you get out of it is tangible. So now, when you log into that platform, you can see, how did my linear compare to my digital? How did my social compare to my CTV buys? In general, what was more performant, video or audio or display? How are those things going to inform my channel mix? How are those things going to inform the way in which I think about going to my publishers for deals that matter, with discounts, with CPMs? How can I go to them to think about what is impactful? And that's not just a multi-touch attribution, fractional credit. We've been doing that. We've done that for a while. It's also thinking about lift. Were the results that I got incrementally valuable to my campaign? Did they drive impact? Should I put more money there? And so we've been talking a lot in this hour about AI, and that needs to come into measurement as well, fueling the brain and the decisioning behind what is actually impactful to my buying. And that doesn't just happen across stereotypical attribution events of like went to a homepage or added something to cart. It's across all outcomes. We've recently released purchase impact outcomes as a product that we can do with Affinity Solutions. We're looking at a bunch of other partners to expand the flow But the most important thing there is that now our customers can do that without even needing pixels if they don't want to for privacy reasons. And so that scalability across any outcome with lift, with a sense of all channel mix is making this more tangible, more impactful for our customers to make real-time decisions on what matters. And it's not simple enough to just say you can get that in platform. We have to make sure that that data hits you when and where and how you want it to. So the first thing that we've done is make sure that all of the data outputs are transferable to you when, where you need them, be that by cloud data share, be that through APIs or S3 buckets or FTs or emails or just general file delivery. That's all there, that's ready for you, and that's incredible. Moving forward into the future this year, what we are going to be doing is adding agentic AI. You can come into the platform and ask it, what channel was the most impactful for my campaign? What targeting parameters drove success? How can I take that and make it predictable? That is going to move our customers out of the, this was a cool insight, into now I can do something with it and I can interact and ask and figure out what to do next. And that brings us into the next stage, which is optimization on a deeper, further level.
What a lovely transition. Thanks, Ryan. So as Ryan mentioned, we finally land at Optimize. This is the engine of our operating system, and it's how we close the loop. Because we sit at the center as your ad server, we see the holistic data signals that others miss. And this unique vantage point doesn't just help us identify trends, it actually makes us the most effective place to action on them. So our 2026 Optimize roadmap really focuses on the idea that optimizations can't be about manual tweaks and changes. It has to be about using your data to drive autonomous, real-time performance that keeps you ahead of the market. And that is achieved by solving 3 existing challenges. First, we need to address the delay between seeing an opportunity and seizing it. To do that, we're building the tools to accelerate action with automated rules and workflows. Second, optimization cannot just happen in a silo. It needs scalable implementation. You shouldn't have to jump between different UIs and different workflows to improve a campaign's performance. This system should handle the heavy lifting of synchronization for you through direct integrations across your tech stack. And third, we're focusing on meaningful optimizations. We don't want to make an optimization just because we can. We want to make sure the changes that we make actually move the needle. So I'll pass it back to Ryan so he can dive into how we're bringing this to life.
Yeah, so over the last, I'll say year and a half, you all have been hearing about Harmony Reach, Harmony Frequency, Harmony Social, Harmony Conversions, and all these disparate products. And what we heard from a lot of our customers was, it's great, you can give us solutions to try to help us, as Rickey said, get quicker to action. But these are disparate solutions. Can you give me one? Can you give me one tangible platform? So Harmony Signals is now the umbrella for those series of products. It's cleaner, it's faster. We've added more partners to the list of whom we can do things with. And if you haven't heard about what this is and why that's so impactful, what we're looking at on screen here is the ability for our system as your ad server that can create and deliver and measure is a wonderful source of truth to be able to see holistically across all campaigns. What was my reach across every publisher, across every DSP, across every direct buy, programmatic buy, or side buy, whatever? We can see that. How can we make that impactful to you? So the first step was, well, let's duplicate those learnings. And in the same platform where you're viewing that performance and decisioning and activating on that performance, how can you, with one button, get to a place where you're sending those signals back into your buying partners to see results? And those results could be increased reach. I'm suppressing the households that were overexposed. They're sick of my advertising. At this point, I'm either wasting money or pulling them farther away from my brand. Or how can I maximize my frequency management so that I'm giving at my potential customers the right number of ads to drive that message resonance to move closer to conversion? And that's what helps us help our clients expand, not just redundant buys on the same households, but finding net new reach, finding new opportunity. And that's not just across exposure intelligence, it's also across conversion intelligence.
Thanks. So while exposures signal to optimize the how much, our conversion signals focus on the what happened. So because we see the full purchase path, we can provide your media partners with a level of meaningful data they simply can't access in isolation. This provides two massive advantages for you. First, it allows for automated cross-channel suppression. In a world where your individual buying partners may lack the ability to connect the dots across the full journey, our Innovid ID allows us to provide that master key. When we see that conversion take place, we can connect every exposure that led to it and use that information to trigger suppression across your entire media stack. Second, that same information can give your partners additive data points to identify trends. By feeding these holistic conversion signals back into their system, they can actually improve their audience creation and lookalike modeling based on these real-world success scenarios. Using both exposure and conversion signals is how we help you reduce waste, optimize budgets, and improve performance. It's how we turn our delivery intelligence into your buying partner's competitive edge. Now, we've shown you a lot today, so let me just take one moment to tie it all together. What we've shared isn't just a collection of features. It's a plan to advance a unified operating system for tomorrow's advertiser. We do that by anchoring our roadmap in a single vision, solving the real-world challenges you face every day, and layering in intelligent automation and AI orchestration to make these solutions faster, smarter, and more accountable. Our role as an end-to-end operating system is what makes Innovid the only partner that can do that, bridging everything from creative fatigue, fragmented data, to addressing the friction between insight and action. This is our commitment to you, an independent, transparent, and AI-enabled partner that can turn your media and creative into a single, continuous cycle of growth. And with that, I'm going to pass it back to you, Grant, to unwrap.
Thank you, Rickey. You tied such a nice bow on that. I really appreciate everyone who has stayed with us for this webinar. And I appreciate everyone who presented and put so much time and effort. This is really for us a big representation of a lot of work and a lot of listening to our customers and coming back to you with what we're doing about the challenges that we're hearing from you. So hopefully that resonated. I think one of the things I want to come back to is this idea that like there's a lot going on right now, and it can feel like a pile of endless bricks. What do we do with all these things? Where do we even start? Hopefully you saw from us today, we're being really thoughtful about how do we turn these challenges into an opportunity and go from, a messy pile to an airplane, not just, to organized piles. And I think we have an airplane ready to deploy for you. But it ultimately is going to come down to the 5 T's for us. It's do we have technology that can truly transform our clients' business and the industry? Do we have the talent to help achieve the change management required to kind of live in that accelerated part of the innovation curve I shared earlier? And do we put forth the trust and the transparency required to shepherd that change? We believe that we represent all 5 of these things, and they remain the focus of what we do going forward with our customers. I'm sure that there are going to be many conversations that spur out of this webinar, and we're very much looking forward to having those with all of you. On the screen, you can see the ability to connect via QR code, but otherwise, of course, reach out to me or to anyone that is your contact at Innovid for more personalized conversations that we're looking forward to having with all of you and piloting the future together. Thank you all so much.